Hello students, I hope you all are doing well. So today we are going to read one more chapter from your book Footprints Without Feet. Yes, that is your chapter 6, The Making of a Scientist. Earlier than this chapter you have read about a scientist whose name was Griffin, but he used his invention in a bad way. But this story is much more different from Griffin's chapter. This chapter is about the detailed account of Richard Arkwright as a young scientist. So let's understand this chapter. The Making of a Scientist by Robert W. Peterson. Robert W. Peterson, he was born in 1925 and died on February 11, 2006. He was an American newspaper writer who later became a freelance author of magazine articles and books, especially on the topics of sports and scouting. His 1970 Chronicle of Negro League baseball titled Only the Ball Was White was hailed by the newspaper, that is the New York Times, as having recaptured a lost era in baseball history and a rich facet of black life in America. So now let's move to the chapter. The chapter The Making of a Scientist is a story about the famous scientist Richard Arkwright. Richie, as his mother used to call him, was a very curious child right from his childhood. He had started collecting butterflies in his childhood, and when he was only 2 years old, he had already collected all the 25 species found near his hometown. Richard Arkwright had received the Cyril Scholar Award and the Stringplow Award for biochemistry and molecular biology. It was his fascination for butterflies that opened the world of science to him. The story is about Richard H. Arkwright, who grew up in the town of Reading in Pennsylvania, USA, as he did not have much to do there. Collecting things was his hobby. He used to collect butterflies as a child in kindergarten. Let's look how this curious child who collected butterflies went on to become one of the greatest scientists of the world. The story starts with Richard Arkwright has received the Cyril Award, as I have told you. So at the age of 22, a former Scout of the Year excited the scientific world with a new theory on how cells work. So he was just at the age of 22 when he amazed everyone with his research on the new cell theory. Richard H. Arkwright and his college roommate explained the theory in an article in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, where he made everyone aware about a new cell theory. It was the first time this important scientific journal had ever published the work of college student. So this was the first time when the article was published for the college students. In sports, that would be like making the big leagues at the age of 15 and hitting a home run your first time at bat. So like if we talk about sports, if you would just have your first hit at the age of 15 and make your league proud, same was the case with Richard. He made everybody proud because his article was published in National Academy of Science. For Richard Arkwright, it was the first in a long string of achievements. So this was not the end. Actually, it was the first step for his many achievements to be coming to him in future, in science and in other fields. And it all started with butterflies. And how it started? It started with the butterflies. An only child, Arkwright grew up north of Reading. Reading is a place in Pennsylvania. There wasn't much I could do there, he said. So in an interview he said that there was nothing to do at that age. I certainly could not play football or baseball with a team of one, but there was one thing I could do: collect things. So he just gave this interview by saying that he was not a good player of football, neither the baseball, but he was very good at collecting the things. So he did. That's why he collected. And did he ever? Beginning in kindergarten. So it was the age of 2. When he was in kindergarten, he started collecting the things. A bright collected butterflies. So he was having a peculiar liking for butterflies. So he used to collect butterflies with the same determination that has marked all his activities. So these butterflies were the aim of his life later on, when he just studied about it for his entire scientific inventions. He also collected rocks, fossils and coins. Apart from butterflies, he also collected rocks, fossils and coins. He became an eager astronomer too, sometimes stargazing all night. So it was not the passion of collecting the butterflies alone. Even he was very eager for the stars, and he used to spend nights gazing at the stars. From the first, he had a driving curiosity along with a bright mind. And moreover, he was having that curiosity, that passion for his hobbies. He also had a mother who encouraged his interest in learning. Moreover, he was blessed by a mother who was always encouraging him to be the best and to take care of his all interest. She took him on trips, bought him telescopes, microscopes, cameras, mounting materials and other equipments, and helped him in many other ways. So his mother always helped him by giving him not only the telescopes but microscopes, cameras, mounting materials and all equipments, whatever helped him in many other ways. I was his only companion until he started school, his mother said. So once, even in her interview, his mother said that she was the only friend of Richard when he was young. After that, I would bring home friends for him, but at night we just did things together. So after that, obviously she encouraged Richard to have friends, but during the night time they were just making the projects or doing any work together. Richie, it was a nickname given by Richard's mother. Richie was my whole life after his father died when Richie was in 3rd grade. When Richard was in 3rd standard, his father died, and after that he was the only companion of his mother. She and her son spent almost every evening at the dining room table. If he did not have things to do, I found work for him. So her mother played an important role making him a scientist, because whenever he was having no work to do, like he was free or just spending the time leisurely, she was always there to find any work for him. Not physical work. It was not that indulging him in household things, but learning things. She was making him to learn, to explore. His mother said he liked it, he wanted to learn. So Richard was very eager and curious child. He always appreciated and was ready to learn new things. And learn he did. He learned top grades in school. And he did his learning in a very good way. He earned top grades in his school time. On everyday things, he was just like every other kid, his mother said. He was not something extraordinary. He was common, like you and me. Okay, he was a normal kid like we kids are or you people are. By the time he was in the school grade, Albright had collected all 25 species of butterflies found around his hometown. So he was only in school when he collected 25 species of butterflies which were available in his hometown. So these were the species of butterflies. Here this table is given explaining about each and every variety of the butterfly he collected. That probably would have been the end of my butterfly collection, he said. He said maybe it was the last I was collecting the butterflies, because there were no more species of butterflies which I have not collected in my hometown. But then my mother got me a children's book called The Travels of Monarch 10th. So the mother gifted her a book titled The Travels of Monarch 10th. Monarch is a kind of butterfly which has milkweeds. That book, which told how monarch butterflies migrate to Central America, opened the world of science to the eager young collector. So I was very eager to know all about the butterflies, and moreover the book which was handed over to Albright by the mother was like opening the world of science to him, because he was already a younger, eager scientist. At the end of the book, readers were invited to help study butterfly migrations. In that book, at the end, there was the reference for readers, those who were interested in studying about the migration of the butterflies. They were asked to tag butterflies for research by Dr. Frederick. So not only this, they were even encouraged by Dr. Frederick to tag the butterflies in their area. So these research were provided by Dr. Frederick Urquhart of the University of Toronto, Canada. Albright's mother wrote to Dr. Urquhart, and soon Albright was attaching light adhesive tags to the wings of monarchs. So soon he just started tagging the butterflies with the labels. Okay, so he just started researching about their migration. So anyone who found a tagged butterfly was asked to send to tag to Dr. Urquhart. So anyone who could find their butterfly labeled butterfly again, they have to send that butterfly to Dr. Urquhart at Canada, who was working in the University of Toronto, Canada. A butterfly collecting season around Reading was the place name, last 6 weeks in the last summer. So it was only for the 6 weeks, okay, and that is in the summertime. If you are going to chase them one by one, you won't catch very many. If you would just collect the butterflies one by one, you wouldn't be able to catch many butterflies. So the next step for Albright was to raise a flock of butterflies. So he decided to just raise them. Okay, he would catch a female monarch, take her eggs and raise them in his basement through their life circle from egg to caterpillar to pupa to adult butterfly. So he was just wanted to raise the butterflies and wanted to just go through the life circle of the butterfly, like from egg to caterpillar to pupa and then to adult butterfly. Then he would tag the butterfly wings and let them go. And after raising them, he would label the wings and then would let them go. For several years, his basement was home to thousands of monarchs in different stages of development. So for several years, the basement of his house was like his lab, where thousands of monarchs were raising in the different stages of development. Where even the table is given number and kinds of butterflies collected in 6 weeks. So eventually I began to lose interest in tagging butterflies. And after so many years of tagging them, labeling them, he lost his interest in tagging the butterflies anymore. It's tedious and there is not much feedback. Most of all, that work was tiresome. Okay, it was taking much of energy, but the outcome was not as expected. So he was bored because of this. Okay, so Ebright said, in all the time I did it, he laughed, only 2 butterflies I had tagged were recaptured. For all the years he raised them, but he got only 2 back, which he labeled, and they were not more than 75 miles from where I lived, and that was only in the range of 75 miles only. So that was not something unique to care about, or just finding about their travel, because it is believed that they could travel from one continent to another, but these who he got as tagged one have only were in the region of 75 miles. Then in the 7th grade, so now he was in 7th grade, he got a hint of what real science is when he entered a county science fair. So he came to know what was the real meaning of science when he attended one science fair that is in the county, means an area in some countries that has its own government. Okay, so he attended a fair there and lost. It was really a sad feeling to hit there and not getting anything while everybody else had won something. Although he lost this competition when he participated in this real science fair, but he was disappointed, he was sad, because everybody was winning something, but he could not even win any consolation prize there. Ebright said his entry was slides of frog tissues which he showed under a microscope. So he has taken the topic of the frog tissues which he showed by his microscope. He realized the winner had tried to do real experiments, not simply make a neat display. So he realized who was the winner of the competition. He not only presented it only on a display, but he actually performed the experiment. So this was something awakening for him. He came to know that only thesis or just showing the display would not make him win the competition. He had to do something very original or real. That's why he would make this competition win. Already the competitive spirit that drives Richard Ebright was appearing, because he was always competitive, eager to know, eager to have the competition in a good way. So I knew that for the next year's fair I would have to do a real experiment. So he was determined that for the next year fair he would just present something real, experimental. He said, the subject I knew most about was the insect work I had been doing in the past several years. So he was very much aware about the insect and their life, because he was studying about them from the past many years. So he wrote to Dr. Urquhart. What he wrote to him? For ideas. He asked for the ideas because he considered Dr. Urquhart as his mentor, and back came to a stack of suggestions for experiments, and he was awarded with number of suggestions for the experiments. Those kept Ebright busy all through his high school and led to prize projects in county and international science fairs. And with those ideas, he was not even winning the fair of the county level, but as well as winning the international science fairs. For his 8th grade project, Ebright tried to find the cause of a viral disease that kills nearly all monarch caterpillars every few years. So, in his 8th grade project, he represented the cause behind a viral which was infecting the monarch butterfly and caterpillars every year and causing the death. Ebright thought the disease might be carried by a beetle. So, the reason was beetle. He tried raising caterpillars in the presence of beetles. So he tried raising the caterpillars in the presence of beetle. Beetle are also insect. I didn't get any real result, but there was no actual result. But I went ahead and showed that I had tried the experiment. This time I won. But he was determined, so he went with his experimentations and then he won the trophy there. The next year, his science fair project was testing the theory that viceroy butterflies copy monarchs. So he has taken very interesting topic. The topic was that viceroy butterflies, they used to copy monarch butterflies. Okay, means they look alike. Fine. Viceroy butterflies and monarch butterflies. You could see that some of the patterns are very similar. So this was his theory that viceroy butterflies copy monarch. The theory was that viceroy look like monarch because monarchs does not taste good to birds. Viceroys on the other hand do taste good to birds. Okay, so what was the theory? That viceroy butterflies which were appearing like monarch but they were not tasty for monarch were not tasty for the birds, but viceroy were having good taste for the birds. So the more they look like monarch, the less likely they are to become a bird's dinner. That's why they could avoid themselves eating by birds, because they were having same appearance. Okay, so that's why this was the biggest point why they were having the copy of monarch butterflies, because they want to protect themselves from birds. Ebright's project was to see whether in fact birds would eat monarchs. So his project was whether actually birds could differentiate between monarch and viceroy. He found that a starling would not eat ordinary bird food. It would eat all the monarchs it could get. Ebright said later research by other people showed that viceroy probably do copy the monarch. This project was placed first in the zoology division and third overall in the country science fair. So he found that the starling bird would not eat the ordinary bird food. It would eat the monarch as much as it could eat. So this was the project that was placed first in the zoology division and third overall in the country science fair. This was really a biggest achievement for Ebright. In his second year in the high school, Richard Ebright began to research that led to his discovery of an unknown insect, hormone. Indirectly, it also led to his new theory on the life of cells. So when he was in the second year of his high school, so he started studying about the discovery of the new life of cell. So he discovered about a new theory, how cell works. So from these lines, it was very clear that he was really a great and curious scientist. So the question he tried to answer was simple. What is the purpose of the 12 tiny gold spots on a monarch pupa? And the question he was searching, the answer was, what was the theory behind the 12 tiny gold spots on a monarch pupa? Everyone assumed the spots were just ornamental. So everyone believed that those spots were just for the decoration of that butterfly. Okay, Ebright said, but Dr. Urquhart didn't believe it. But Dr. Urquhart was not believing in this fact that this was only one decoration over the butterfly. To find the answer, Ebright and other excellent science student first had to build a device that showed that the spots were producing a hormone necessary for the butterfly full development. So it was like functioning the butterfly. It was like hormonal cells which were given to the butterfly. So this was really amazing to study about. This project won Ebright first place in the county fair and entry into the International Science Fair and Engineering Fair. So this project was indeed very successful and won him first prize at the county fair. And not only this, he got the direct entry in International Science and Engineering Fair. There he won third place for zoology. So he got the third prize for zoology. He also got a chance to work during the summer at the entomology laboratory of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. Not only this, he was also granted to work with the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. As a high school junior, Richard Ebright continued his advanced experiments on the monarch pupa. So after achieving these much, he was not stopped. He started working on the monarch pupa now. That year, his project won first place at the International Science Fair and gave him another chance to work in the army laboratory during the summer. So he was again awarded with one more summer to spend at that laboratory. In his senior year, it was his final year, he went a step further. So he advanced his project. He grew cells from a monarch wing in a culture and showed that the cells would divide and develop into normal butterfly wing scales only if they were fed the hormone from the gold spots. So he just experimented that if he would just transfer the hormone to the butterfly wings and he could develop the butterfly in that case. That project won first place for zoology at the International Fair. He spent the summer after graduation doing further work at the Army Laboratory and at the laboratory of US Department of Agriculture. Not only this, he just advanced his step by working with the Agriculture Department as well. The following summer, after his freshman year at Howard University, Ebright went back to the laboratory of Department of Agriculture and did more work on the hormone from the gold spots using the laboratory sophisticated instruments, means advanced instruments. He was able to identify the hormone's chemical structure, and in such a way he was just studying about the hormonal structure, how it was working. A year and a half later, during his junior year, Ebright got the idea for his new theory about cell life. And while working on this project, all of a sudden he invented the new theory about the cell life. It came while he was looking at X-ray photos of the chemical structure of a hormone. So how he came to know about this? When he was looking at the X-ray. Okay, and then he was just came to know about this new theory. When he saw those photos, Ebright did not shout. He was not so excited, like, oh wow, wonderful, he got something new. Eureka, or even I have got it. He was not shouting with the exclamations like he achieved something, but he believed that along with his findings about insect hormones, the photos gave him the answer to one of the biology puzzles, how the cell can read the blueprint of its DNA. He came to one conclusion that this was because of the hormones that they could read the biology puzzles and how they could read the what is the blueprint of your DNA? DNA is the substance in the nucleus of a cell that controls heredity. What is DNA? DNA actually is the substance in the nucleus which controls our heredity. It determines the form and function of the cell. Thus, DNA is the blueprint for life. So, actually, this is the structure for life. Bright and his college roommates James R. Wong worked all that night drawing pictures and constructing plastic models of molecules to show how it could happen. Together they later wrote the paper that explained the theory, and they also came up with the theory as well. Surprising, no one who knew him, Richard Albright, graduated from Harvard with highest honors, second in his class of 1510. Albright went on to become a graduate student researcher at Harvard Medical School. There he began doing experiments to test his theory. He was awarded, and also he was the second in his class of 1510 students. If the theory proves correct, it will be a big step towards understanding the process of life. If his theory would prove correct, he would just give one more theory of the process of life. It might also lead to new ideas for preventing some types of cancer and other diseases. So this could also be used to prevent the cancer, because you can transplant the new cells into the cancer body, and they can read your DNA and how it could be cured. Nowadays the treatment is being given with the corneal preservation, that is also based on this theory. All of this is possible because of the Albright scientific curiosity. This was only possible because Albright was having so much eager to know about science. His high school research into the purpose of the spot on a monarch pupa eventually led him to his theory about cell life. So only he was just reading about the spots on monarch pupa, but eventually it turned into a life, and that is a cell theory. Albright has been interested in science since he first began collecting butterflies, but not so deeply that he has not time for other interest. So it was not that he was only having the interest in collecting the butterflies. Okay, he was, apart from collecting the butterflies, he was having other interest. Albright also became a champion debater and public speaker and a good canoeist. Canoe means sailing in a very timid boat. Okay, there you can just sit single and then you can row your boat. And all around outdoors person. He is also an expert photographer, particularly of nature and scientific exhibits. He is a good photographer. He is also a public speaker and champion debater. In high school, Richard Albright was a straight A student because learning was easy. He turned a lot of his energy towards the debating and Model United Nations Club. He also found someone to admire, Richard A. Wheeler, his social studies teacher and advisor to both clubs. Mr. Wheeler was the perfect person for me then. He opened my mind to new ideas. He appreciated his social science teacher by calling him that he was the only person who opened his mind to very new ideas, and that turned him into a good debater. Richard would always give that extra effort. Mr. Wheeler said, "What pleased me was this person who put in 3 or 4 hours at night doing debates research besides doing all his research with butterflies and his other interest." Even his master appreciated him by calling that he was the only person who was putting extra effort in every work in hand. He was doing research, but side by side, whatever topic I was given to him, he was paying full attention and was preparing researches for the topics for debate competition. Richard was competitive. Actually, Richard was having the competitive spirit, but in a positive way. So, to be successful, it is very important to have competitive spirit. Mr. Wearer continued, but not in a bad sense. So it was not in a bad sense, actually it was in a good sense. He explained Richard was not interested in winning for winning's sake or winning to get a prize. Rather, he was winning because he wanted to do the best job he could. So he was not having the competitive spirit only to win that contest. Actually, he was winning for only to give his best. So he was putting every time his 100%, and that was the reason he was so successful in whatever he was doing. For the right reasons, he wants to be the best. So in a positive way, he always wanted himself to be as the best, and that is one of the ingredients in the making of a scientist. So this is only the one ingredient we need to make a scientist, that is good competitive spirit, positive competitive spirit. When you are having the competitive spirit in a positive manner, you can just become a good human. Not only a good human, whatever work you are in hand, you can make it successful. Start with the first rate mind, add curiosity. So how you can make the ingredients to make a scientist? So first you need to start with a first rate mind, means a curious mind. Okay, a fresh mind, then add curiosity in that and mix in the well to win for the right reason. Then you just put the competitive spirit in that mind, but in a positive sense. Ebright has 3 qualities. All these 3 qualities means he was having always a ready brain, he was curious, and he was having competitive spirit. So these were the 3 ingredients which could make a quality scientist. From the time the book The Travel of Monarch 10 opened the world of science to him, Richard Ebright has never lost his scientific curiosity. Although the Monarch 10 was the book which opened the world of science to him, and after that he never ever lost his scientific curiosity. So this is the chapter we have done by Robert Peterson, and we found that to make a scientist, it needs not only your brain, your curiosity, but also the competitive spirit. Moreover, there was a major role of Ebright's mother to make him a good scientist. So this is the chapter. Thanks for watching the video. I hope this video is useful to understand this chapter. Thank you.